You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation will take the fall. The saints, across the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Welcome to the year 2000. It's the 3rd of January, and this week we've got Raw coming from Miami, Florida, while Nitro's in Greenville, South Carolina. WCW President Bill Bush watched what happened last week with the NWO and their big monster truck, and so a new company commissioner is going to get appointed tonight. That commissioner arrives to Greenville in the WCW Learjet, and we'll find out who it is a bit later on. The McMahon-Helmsley era continues over on Raw, and tonight Triple H and Stephanie's abusive powers on full display once again. The Rock's going to open up Raw and talk about what happened to Mick Foley last week, but you best believe DX are going to make life difficult for the People's Champ. Nitro's going back to 2 hours, and it's going to stay that way until the very last episode. Executives at Turner told media outlets that the hour cut wasn't a runaway from the WWF, but rather to create a more coherent show. This was just PR talk, of course. Nitro now airs from 8 PM to 10 PM Eastern, while Raw airs from 9 PM to 11 PM. And so the WWF now has its final hour totally free from any competition. Thunder had already moved to Wednesday nights too, so that little weekly war was over before it even began. So yeah, less to cover now on Reliving the War, which makes my job a lot easier, I guess. Even though the timings are now totally different, I'm still going to compare both shows as if they were airing head to head. I don't see the point in changing format this late in the game. So grab your supply soldier and let's start Reliving the War's final chapter. Raw kicks off with a Rock promo while the Lethal Lottery continues on Nitro.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
It's Buzzkill and Rotunda versus the Harris Brothers. New tag team champions will be crowned on Nitro tonight, and here's a look at the matches we're going to see. I agree, it looks absolutely terrible, and I guess the only good thing about this is the fact that the tournament will end tonight and it won't get dragged out for weeks. Buzzkill says, it's me, it's the B-U-Z-Z as he makes his way down to the ring. Kevin Sullivan joined the commentary table for this one, and Sullivan said Rick Steiner isn't here tonight because he egged a history professor's house over the weekend. Not even joking. Mike Tenay said Sullivan was an awfully stern taskmaster. Ron Harris pulls off a big sidewalk slam on Buzzkill. Dawn comes in with a back suplex. The commentators are way too focused on Leah Meow jumping on a trampoline outside the ring, and standards and practices also took note of Leah's provocative bouncing. So the group comes down to take Leah away, and this results in the Varsity Club launching an attack. Buzzkill's left all alone in the ring, and Armstrong loses the match following a double flapjack, a move that the cameras totally missed. The Varsity Club attack the Harris Brothers after the match. Ron and Dawn take care of Sullivan and Rotunda, and then the commentators speculate about who the new WCW commissioner could be. Bobby Heenan heard it was Lou Thez, while Mike Tenay heard it was Bruno Sammartino. Kevin Nash, meanwhile, heard it was a toss-up between actor Orson Bean and the Z-Man Tom Zink. I would have popped huge if Tom Zink really was the commissioner. Bret Hart isn't with the NWO, he arrives a little late, but his tardiness cost him big time when Sid Vicious jumped him from behind. The NWO were way too late coming to Bret's rescue. After a commercial break, a few paramedics try to check on Bret, but when the hitman says he's fine, the NWO decide to beat them up. We will hear from Bret later on, but he won't be in action tonight on Nitro. On Raw, finally The Rock has come home. The Great One's back in Miami and he gets the crowd fired up by welcoming everyone to the first Raw of the new millennium. He gives a shout out to Ziggy Marley, who's in attendance for the show tonight, and Rock says in 1,000 years time when historians look back at the WWF, the sound of the year 2000 will be the people chanting The Rock's name. Take note guys, and remember to look this up in the year 3000. This year, Rock wants to become WWF Champion once again, but first he wants to talk about Mick Foley. The way Mick was fired last week was the biggest load of monkey crap the Great One's ever seen. So The Rock wants a match against Triple H tonight. He wants to stick his Brahma bullhorns up Triple H's ass, and yeah, it sounds kinky. Hunter and Steph come out. Triple H says he just passed an old lady and she wants her jacket back. And while Hunter would love to come down to the ring and leave Rock in a puddle of his own blood in front of The Rock's family, the fact of the matter is Triple H has bigger fish to fry. The Rock has nothing to offer Triple H, so the match isn't going to happen. Triple H made a New Year's resolution himself, one that's similar to The Rock's. Triple H wants to become WWF Champion, and Hunter can make this a reality by booking himself in a match tonight against The Big Show. That match is going to happen. Hunter promises to become a 3-time WWF Champion, but Rock shouldn't worry because Helmsley does have a spot for the People's Champ on tonight's show. Rock was in the first ever pink slip on a pole match last week, and this week he'll be in the first ever handicap You're Fired match. I love the creativity behind that name. Rock's going to face 3 opponents. If he doesn't win, he's fired. And seeing as the McMahon-Helmsley era is nothing but fair, if anyone interferes in that match, they'll get fired on the spot. Rock says it doesn't matter who his opponents are going to be, but again, to be fair, Triple H decides to throw Rock a bone by showing him exactly who he's going to face tonight in the Raw main event. The New Age Outlaws and X-Pac run down to launch an attack, and yeah, The Rock's facing D-Generation X later and he has to beat these guys if he wants to keep his job. Triple H says Rock's going to get his ass kicked and The Rock's also going to get fired. Next on Raw, we've got Too Cool taking on the Dudley Boyz. On Nitro, PG-13 take on Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner. Before the Nitro match began, Mean Gene Okerlund got a word with DDP. Page said he wouldn't wrestle in WCW again until he gets a match against Buff Bagwell after what Buff said about Kimberly, and Mean Gene reveals that a last man standing match has been signed for Sold Out. Kurt Hennig then appears. He tells Page that the powers that be want him in the ring tonight, so Dallas runs down after PG-13's entrance and he lays the boys out with a few diamond cutters. After Page takes care of Wolfie D and JC Ice, he leaves the ring and he goes through the audience, and this allows Nash and Steiner to come out and claim an easy win. All Nash has to do is drop an elbow and that's it, the NWO advance in the Lethal Lottery tournament. PG-13 gets spray painted before Bret Hart and Jeff Jarrett join their NWO teammates, and Bret says Sid mustn't have got the license plate of that monster truck last week. Sid's playing petty games with the excellence of execution, and I don't know, Bret. I mean, trying to kill someone by running over their car with a monster truck isn't necessarily what I would call petty, but anyway. Bret says he's the greatest wrestler to ever put on a pair of tights, but it's clear the Hitman isn't getting any respect. So Sid's gonna get wrecked at Sold Out, and Bret's gonna, and I quote, pound Sid's living skull in and beat him to a pulp. Jarrett wishes everyone a sloppy new year, and he says he's looking forward to the Triple Theatre at Sold Out. He's going to torture Chris Benoit in his very own match, the Dungeon match. Then Benoit's going to get manhandled in the Bunkhouse Brawl. And finally, Jeff's going to be the one jumping off the cage in the Caged Heat match. Unfortunately, Double J wouldn't do any of these things because Benoit vs Jarrett doesn't happen at Sold Out, but we'll talk about that when I cover the pay-per-view. Kevin Nash finds it funny that the moment the band gets back together, WCW decide to appoint a new commissioner. All this commissioner's going to do is make rules that the NWO's going to break. It may be a new millennium, but things haven't changed, and the NWO are the same as they've always been. Big Papa Pump said the people really wanted to like him when he put on his Academy Award winning performance last week, but Scott doesn't care about these people, especially these fans in Greenville. These fans are nothing more than gas pumping, tobacco chewing, inbred white trash. Scott then calls out someone wearing a Goldberg shirt. Goldberg's no match for the NWO. Sid's no match for the NWO either. So all these people need to pay homage and they all need to bow down to the New World Order. Over on Raw, Too Cool take on the Dudley Boyz. Big Rikishi Fatu came out with Scotty 2 Hottie and Grandmaster Sexy, but look who else came out to watch the match from the entrance stage.
Have you ever had sex? I haven't felt great. It felt so good when I did it with my penis. A girl let me do it. It literally just happened. Having sex can make a nice man out the meanest. Oh, hey.
3 absolute wrestling gods by the name of Rodney, Pete Gas and Joey Abs. The Grandmaster made easy work of Devon at the opening bell, and when Scotty tagged in, fans got treated to the worm. Devon came back with a stun gun though, and this allowed Bubba to tag in. Scotty takes a back body drop before he can make it to his corner to tag in Christopher, and Grandmaster Sexay makes the most of his time in the ring with a big double DDT. The posse then run down to attack Rikishi, but the boys get chased away by the Acolytes. Bradshaw and Farouk want to get some payback from the Greenwich Hardmen, but we'll come back to this in a moment. Meanwhile, in the ring, Rikishi decides to interfere, and after hitting Bubba with a sidekick, the referee calls for the bell, so the Dudleys win via disqualification. Devon takes the Rikishi driver, and his Too Cool dance in the ring to celebrate their loss. Michael Cole gets a word with the Acolytes. Farouk said they had whooped the Mean Street Posse with one arm tied behind their backs. Triple H and Stephanie watched this interview, and they want to see if the Acolytes really could beat the Posse while at this kind of disadvantage. So tonight we'll see Bradshaw and Farouk with one arm tied behind their backs, taking on the greatest wrestlers of all time in a 3-on-2 match.
Now that your daddy's gone, you walk around here thinking you are someone. But David Flair, you could have had it all, but the unfortunate truth is you suck big balls.
Next on Raw, we've got Kurt Angle versus Kane. On Nitro, David Flair and Crowbar take on LeRoux and Midnight. Midnight scares the shit out of her own partner when she makes her entrance, but I'd be more afraid of the absolute nutcase on the other side of the ring. David looks as stiff as ever as Lash tries to work around our clumsy friend, and the producers got so embarrassed that they focused the cameras at the commentary table. Stevie Ray's here tonight and he's basically blaming Midnight for all of Harlem Heat's problems. To be fair, he's not really wrong. Now, the cameras unfortunately cut away here, but look at David selling an atomic drop from Lash. Rick Rude would be turning in his grave. In comes Crowbar to make this bout somewhat competitive, and Mr. Barr even kicks his own partner just because he felt like it. Way to go. The Raging Cajun takes out both of his opponents, while Stevie Ray wonders why Midnight won't help her partner out, but it looks like Lash doesn't need any help. If you look closely here, you can see some WCW Power Plant graduates, including Chuck Palumbo, Mark Jindrak, and Mike Sanders. Midnight tags in and she slams her own partner on top of Crowbar. She then shows off some insane athleticism with a one-handed cartwheel followed by a dropkick. Stevie Ray unfortunately gets involved in the match and he punches Midnight in the mouth, and for some reason the referee doesn't call for the bell. Disco Inferno then appears along with the Mamalukes just before Booker T shows up. Yeah, this is a bit overbooked, isn't it? Booker looks for a fight with his brother, but instead he gets a slapjack across the head. Meanwhile, LeRoux has the match won after delivering the whiplash, but the Mamalukes get in the ring to beat Lash up, and this allows David Flair to win via pinfall. This means we'll see more David Flair shenanigans later tonight, and I'm all for it. Bring it on. On Raw, Triple H tells Steve Blackman that he's glad he's ridden the world of giant robot monsters, but tonight he has to let Kurt Angle and Kane fight on their own. He's not allowed to interfere, and besides, Kane's a big red monster, not a giant robot monster. Kurt says Kane only has one of the three eyes, that being intensity. He doesn't have integrity nor intelligence, and that's why Angle's going to beat him tonight on Raw. Something seems a bit off about Kurt here, like he's just not himself or something, but anyway, Jim Ross says Kurt's going to need another eye once Kane gets through with him. Insurance. The Big Red Machine pulls off a big boot followed by a clothesline. We go to the outside where Angle gets dropped on the guardrail. Tori watches on as Kane continues to wreck his opponent, and yeah, Tori pulled off the same nonsense on SmackDown as she did on Raw last week. This time it was The Rock who got accused of violating her. Angle's getting destroyed here, and it's like we're watching a different performer altogether. He goes upstairs, he gets caught out with a big chokeslam, and then Steve Blackman begins walking down to the ring. Blackman gets inside the ring, he looks at Kane while raising his candlestick of mass destruction, but he then hits Kurt and it all makes sense. That wasn't Kurt Angle, ladies and gents, it was another one of those pesky robot monsters disguised as Kurt Angle. Blackman has once again saved the universe, so take that, you robo-fuck. Backstage, Stephanie calls Steve Blackman the greatest man to ever live, and Triple H agrees wholeheartedly. Stephanie McMahon has an announcement regarding the IC title next on Raw. On Nitro, Tank Abbott takes on Non-Sting. Before our Nitro match, Lash LeRoux wants to know why Disco didn't help him earlier on when he got attacked, but the Mamalukes appear to beat up Lash once again. Disco just stands there and he does nothing. Non-Sting says he needs to redeem himself after the total package destroyed him at Starrcade, so it's time to start that redemption as he invites anyone in the back to come out for a fight. Tank Abbott shows up. Lex wants nothing to do with this guy. He sits in the corner and he begs for mercy, but then Liz sprays mace in Tank's eyes and the total package runs away. That's our match over, ladies and gents. As Luger and Liz head back up the ramp, Jerry Lynn with an F runs down to get a little payback for last week. Mike Tenay announces here that Tank and Jerry are going to fight in the block. It's sold out, but it's just a regular one-on-one match. Probably for the best, to be honest. The Total Package and Liz then get greeted by a black crow sitting at the entranceway. The crow says, "Things coming for you soon, Flexi Lexi, and there's nothing you can do about it." On SmackDown this past week, Chris Jericho wrestled Chyna while defending his IC belt. Chyna revealed that she's been helping Chris because her hand was still healing up. She wanted to make sure it was Jericho who she took the IC title from and not someone else. So the two had their match and it ended with a back suplex from Jericho. Both competitors had their shoulders counted by two separate referees, and so Stephanie wants to settle this dispute on Raw. Exactly who is the current IC champion? The referees can't make their mind up. One says Chyna's the champion while the other says it's Jericho. So the two come down to the ring and Stephanie says she's already made a decision. This is a new millennium. Business is going to be done differently from now on. So Stephanie's come up with a unique way to settle this once and for all. Chyna and Chris Jericho are both the Intercontinental Champion. This means only one of the two can defend the Intercontinental Championship at any given time, and when one person loses a match, then both Chyna and Jericho lose the IC belt. Hardcore Holly shows up. He says he wants a title shot right now against Chyna, and Stephanie tells Bombastic Bob to come get it. Jericho goes on commentary. He says this is ridiculous, seeing as a champion always keeps his title in the event of a draw. And when Chyna gets sent over the top rope, Jericho screams at her to get up and not ruin his IC title run. In the end, Chris is forced to help Chyna out when Holly goes for a cover, and Chyna successfully defends the IC belt. Chris takes the championship. He heads back up the ramp while saying the belt is still his, and back in the ring, Sparky Plug takes his loss out on young Crash. After the match, Triple H tells the Big Boss Man and Albert that they'll be facing Test and two mystery partners tonight on Raw. Boss Man doesn't seem to care, and he says he and Albert are going to go out there later and kick some ass. The new WCW Commissioner gets revealed next on Nitro. On Raw, it's the Big Show defending his WWF title against Triple H once again. Some jabroni named Rob Garner makes his way to the ring on Nitro. This guy's in the executive committee and he's acting as Bill Bush's spokesman, his little bitch, if you will. He looks like an actual Muppet as he says the powers that be have been causing a lot of headaches for Mr. Bush back in Atlanta, but the fans don't care. They've started to chant "We want Flair," but don't worry Greenville, young David's going to compete again very soon. Rob Muppet says the powers that be reformed the NWO, but from this point on things are going to change. There's one man with the power and the knowledge to drag WCW out of the situation it's currently in. The new commissioner knows a thing or two about getting hardcore. He made hardcore wrestling fashionable. He's about to come to the ring right now and his name is Terry Funk. The Dirty Funker makes his entrance. He's got a lot of security, and look at the fantastic perm on this guy right here. Great work, my guy. The majority of fans are happy about this announcement, but some folks look a bit confused, like this guy right here, and this guy. This is the face I've made every week recently while watching Nitro. Funk says he's accepted this new job because he loves pro wrestling. He loves real pro wrestling. It's a bit of an oxymoron there, but Terry's all about dedication and desire, so he's back to get things in order. I think he's also got his promo written on his hand, but anyway. Funk says the NWO are a bunch of fat hogs following the slop wagon, only Vince Russo isn't throwing out slop, he's throwing out easy money. Funk would love to stick a rocket up Russo and Ferrara's rear ends and blow their brains out. How nice. But Terry Funk can't do it alone, he needs help. As a matter of fact, he needs an enforcer. Double A makes his way down to the ring, the crowd go nuts for Anderson, and as soon as Arn tries to talk, the crowd once again chant "We want Flair." Anderson tells the powers that be to pay attention to what the people are saying. The enforcer says Russo and Ferrara know nothing about real passion. The blood that Anderson spilled over the years is something the powers that be couldn't write with their pen and paper. Funk gets all up in Double A's personal space as Anderson says Russo relies on the NWO to do his dirty work, and Arn says the New World Order will not run roughshod in WCW again the same way they did in the past. Bret Hart and the boys come out. The champ says Funk could go out in style and join the NWO, but Terry says he's the commissioner and he's not going anywhere. He adds a few stipulations, the Bret sold out match. Hart will lose his world belt if the NWO interfere in any way, and there's going to be a special referee. His name is Arn Anderson. And as for tonight, Jeff Jarrett's going to defend his US belt against Sid Vicious in a powerbomb match. Terry's also going to make sure that Nash and Steiner get screwed over in the Lethal Lottery tournament. Big Kev says he thought Terry Funk was dead. Anderson's already died of tuberculosis. And Kevin says he and the boys are going to handle this the NWO way. David Flair's Arn Anderson's godson, and maybe the NWO should go find David right now and rough him up a little. Terry Funk doesn't make the rules, the NWO make the rules. And after Kev gets done screaming his head off, and after a commercial break, we see Terry trying to get a security team organised should the NWO go after David Flair. Old Big Perm just stands in the back thinking about how fabulous he looks. Triple H tells DX to stay on the entrance stage for this one. The game wants to win the WWF title all on his own. Joe wants to get the match started right away, and so it begins with Hunter taking a lot of punishment in the corner, including kicks, chops, and headbutts. Hunter tries to fight back, but he takes a body slam for his trouble. He then gets sent out of the ring while DX and Stephanie watch on from the entranceway. The Big Show then gets sent into the crowd that pleases DX quite a bit, but a brief fight in the audience ends with the challenger getting thrown back over the barrier. Big Show then gets sent into the ring steps. He then gets sent over the announce table when Hunter jumps from the apron. The fight continues at the timekeeper's area, and so Show's been softened up quite a bit, and he goes down after a Harley Race knee back inside the ring. Just like last week though, the Big Show starts no selling. He floors Hunter with a headbutt before delivering a sidewalk slam. The game then takes a power slam as his chances of winning this match begin to decrease rapidly, and then the Big Show looks to put Triple H away with a choke slam. This isn't enough to win the match. Triple H gets a foot on the ropes, so Show goes upstairs looking for the kill shot, but his elbow drop misses and Hunter tries a pedigree that gets easily countered. DX then run down the ramp and the referee gets distracted. This allows Triple H to hit a low blow followed by the pedigree, and the Big Show's rather uneventful title run comes to an end. Triple H is the new WWF champion. Hunter's joined by DX and Stephanie. A big celebration takes place in the ring, complete with green and black balloons falling from the ceiling. Pyro goes off at the stage, and you may be wondering why this happened at the middle of the show. Remember though, in real time, this went head to head with Nitro's main event, so when Bruce Pritchard and the rest of them say the WWF weren't paying attention to WCW at this point in the Monday Night War, well, that's a load of horseshit. Mick Foley said last week that Triple H would likely leave D-Generation X as soon as he won the WWF Championship, so let's see if Mick's prediction comes true in the weeks that follow. Triple H's perfect plan has been completed on Raw, but the show's far from over. The Big Boss Man and Albert take on Test and his mystery partners next on Raw. On Nitro, Buff, Bagwell and Kanyon take on Norman, Smiley and Asya. Champion Kanyon says this town sure ain't Hollywood. Bagwell's been to Hollywood though, and Kanyon knows Buff's a better wrestler than he is an actor. And because Buff single-handedly got his tag team through to the next round last week, Kanyon wants to give him a bottle of champagne. Bagwell ends up breaking that bottle over Kanyon's head, and so Chris is out of this match. It's now a 2-on-1 affair. Norman came out as the Greenville Growl mascot named Gruff, and the first thing he did when he got in the ring was shake his little tail at Buff Daddy. Buff countered with one of his signature poses, and it wasn't nearly as funny. Norman showed Bagwell up moments later, something that Buff didn't take too kindly to, so Norman took a few clotheslines before Asya helped her partner out from the apron. We see the big Growl wiggle, and it sure made Asya growl, know what I'm saying? And Asya comes in to do some damage, though she doesn't get too far. Buff suplexes his opponent before Asya tags out. A low blow stuns Bagwell while Smiley picks up the mascot head. He swings, he misses, Asya takes a shot with that soft and fluffy mask, and this is enough to take her out of the match. Bagwell delivers a blockbuster to Norman, and Buff's team advances in this god-awful Lethal Lottery tournament. Saturn then shows up to send Buff out of the ring. He then argues with Asya, and the other Revolution members have to hold Saturn and Asya back. But this little squabble's gonna have to wait because Hacksaw Jim Duggan shows up for a fight. Unfortunately, Duggan doesn't get very far and the Revolution beat him down, but he gets saved once again by the Filthy Animals. I remember looking forward to an Animals vs Revolution feud a few weeks before it actually began, but gotta say, it's gone absolutely nowhere, unfortunately. The NWO are in the back looking for young David, as is Arn Anderson and Terry Funk. They go into what looks like a server room or something where they bump into Daphne, though Daphne's in no rush to tell the boys where David's currently located. I mean, he's got a lethal lottery match later on, so I don't see what the big deal is. He'll be in the ring soon enough. Over on Raw, Test tag team partners were none other than Mae Young and the fabulous Haggard Bastard.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
Mark Henry brings Mae to the ring while Harvey Whippleman's with Moolah, that poor man. Tess set Bossman up for Mae Young's Bronco Buster and she rode that Bronco like it was no one's business. But it didn't take long for the heels to fight back and the old bats ended up staying on the outside. Tess goes up for the elbow drop, Bossman knocks him down with his nightstick, Albert performs a pump kick, and Tess loses the match via pinfall. Colour me surprised. Mark Henry and Harvey Whippleman get beaten up after the bell, but Tess wakes up and he takes the heels out. It all ends with Harvey Whippleman getting carried by Moolah back up the ramp. Disgusting behaviour tonight on Raw. Triple H is backstage celebrating his championship win along with DX, and the group laugh as they watch Big Show leave the arena. Show will get another opportunity to become WWF champion in the future, but for now, it's all about the game. Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner come to the ring for their match against the Harris brothers. Scott decided to go on commentary because Nash could handle these two all on his own. In the end, the Varsity Club ran down to take out Ron and Dawn. Scott then decided to grab himself an easy pinfall win, so that means Nash and Steiner are in the tournament final even though they've done practically nothing to make it this far. Daphne still won't give Funk or Anderson any information about David's whereabouts, so she leaves the room only to get grabbed by Jeff Jarrett. If there's one wrestler a female doesn't want to get scooped by, it's definitely Double J, and it looks like the NWO now has a bargaining chip. The Acolytes take on the Main Street Posse next on Raw. On Nitro, Buff Bagwell and Kanyon are scheduled to face David Flair and Crowbar. The Raw match was over in no time at all. Farouk and Bradshaw came down with one arm tied behind their backs, but they got jumped by the boys. Turns out it was all a big setup and the Dudley boys came out to get a piece of the Acolytes while they were at a serious disadvantage. Bradshaw took a chair shot right to the head while the Dudleys performed their double team headbutt on Farouk. Those Main Street hooligans whipped the Acolytes like they were a pair of government mules when the Dudleys left the ring. A great performance right here from the Main Street Posse. Fantastic. Over on Nitro, Bam Bam Bigelow attacked Kanyon before Chris could get to the ring. Chris got put through a table from the stage, and so once again, Buff doesn't have a partner. David Flair looks a bit worried about Daphne right now, but he should also be worried about Vampiro coming down to the ring. Vampiro wants to replace Kanyon as Buff's tag team partner because old Vampy Balls has a score to settle with Flair Jr. and Crowbar.
That's going to be a good little piece of business.
The bell rings as Crowbar attacks Vampiro, so just like that, Champagne Canyon's out and Vampiro's in. As Vampiro goes to work on Crowbar with a front spin kick and a top rope wheel kick, Terry Funk and Arn Anderson come out to speak with David. Flair Jr. has totally lost his marbles and Arn tells the Nature Kid to snap out of it and stop acting like a dickhead. Flair doesn't even notice his partner taking a superplex in the ring from Vampiro, and Crowbar continues to get wrecked with a sit-down powerbomb. Vampiro then gets annoyed with Anderson and Funk. He tells them to leave the ringside area, but Terry Funk launches an attack. Bagwell then decides to hit Vampiro with a blockbuster because, I don't know, reasons, and David slides in to get a pinfall victory. David heads back up the ramp and he disappears to the side of the entrance stage just as the NWO show up with Daphne. Steiner says the Flairs always had a thing for ugly women. He tells David to come get his girl before the NWO do something they might regret later, and then the NWO head back through the curtain. We then see David and Crowbar leaving through a door at the side of the entranceway, and he then screams as he wonders where Daphne is backstage. Yet he had every opportunity to go get her while the NWO were on the rampway. Just bad production from WCW here, which really is becoming their trademark these days. The Fink comes out on Raw to introduce fans to a series of videos that were put together by Triple H named Have a Bad Day. These homemade movies show what Mankind got up to after his firing last week, and the first thing he did was visit the unemployment office to find himself a new job. That's Midian portraying Mankind, by the way. The guy working at the office, named Harry Sachs, wonders what Mankind's skills are, and Mankind says he can jump off cages and get hit on the head 37 times with a steel chair. Harry Sachs says Mankind's horrible, he stinks, he killed the WWF product, he doesn't do hardcore matches anymore, and he's basically a joke. Mankind begs for a job, Harry calls Mankind pathetic, and Mankind's told to get out of the office before he gets his ass beat again. A bit later on, Mankind wants to entertain some kids at a children's hospital, but he's met by Dr. Hung Lo, and I'm really surprised this one hasn't been brought up yet by the Twitter mob. I'm sure it will be now that I'm covering it for the series. Dr. Hung Lo's a Chinese doctor, and Hunter's got on special glasses to show his slanted eyes.
Listen here, you cannot be here. I had Dr. Hung Lo. I call security that you not leave.
And Dr. Lo wonders if Mankind knows Triple H because Triple H is over huge and the sick kids would love to see the game instead of Mick Foley. If Mankind can bring Triple H, then he can go and entertain the needy children. But until then, Mick can have a kick in the balls.
Never mess with the Hung Lo. Now you get the fat ass out of here. You a loser.
Finally, Mick tries to sell his new book named I've Been Fired, but the store owner, Mr. B. Dalton, says that Mankind's chasing customers away rather than bringing them in. Mr. Dalton can't be doing business like this, so Mankind threatens to put the store owner in the mandible claw, but instead he gets thrown into the wall. Looks like Mick's been having a hard time since getting fired last week on Raw. Next up, Jeff Hardy takes on Al Snow inside a steel cage. On Nitro, Jeff Jarrett faces Sid Vicious. The Nitro match is for the US title. It can only end when someone gets powerbombed, only it ends in disqualification. So tell me, what was the point in having a match stipulation? Jeff went after the injured neck in the early going. Sid got dumped to the outside where the power plant hopefuls got a close look at the action. Schiavone says these guys are the future of WCW, but not everyone would make it, unfortunately. Jeff pulls off a terrible neck snap before delivering a crossbody, but Sid kicks out of the follow-up cover and Double J gets chokeslammed. The referee takes a bump when Jeff slides under the big man's legs, and Slick Johnson doesn't see the powerbomb that Sid delivers to the US champion. Bret Hart interferes, he hits Sid with his baseball bat, and the referee calls for the bell. It's fucking stupid. Bret sprays NWO on Sid's back. Jeff attacks the EMTs who come down to help Sid. And after this complete waste of time, we see David and Crowbar still searching for Daphne. These two are going to get featured in our Nitro main event, but first, Jeff Hardy's got a cage match against Al Snow on Raw. Snow takes Matt out before he even gets in the cage. He then slams the door in Jeff's face, he pulls Hardy out so he can attack him with a steel chair, and he then puts Terry inside the cage before locking the door with his own chain. Terry stayed inside as the match got underway in the ring. Jeff tried to open the door to get Terry to safety, but it's no use. Al tried to expose a turnbuckle, but he failed in his mission unfortunately. But Jeff still got dropped face first on the pad. Just pretend it's exposed, I guess. Snow looks to Pillmanize Hardy, so Terry scratches Al's back. This gives Jeff a chance to climb up the cage, but Snow stops his opponent by improvising a move from way upstairs. In the end, Jeff was able to escape in pretty spectacular fashion. He jumped on Al's back before climbing up and flipping over the cage. He totally forgot about Terry though, and Matt has to run in to save the Hardy Boys manager. A chair shot was enough to stop Al in his tracks. A pretty decent cage match here, especially for a TV semi-main event. No complaints at all. The Rock got a few visitors to his locker room, Pat Patterson and Jerry Briscoe. When Briscoe said he sure will miss The Rock when he's gone, the Great One tells Briscoe to stop popping his chops or the People's Champ will slap the yellow off his teeth. Rock has no problem taking on the whole Rudy Poo crew tonight in the main event, and to prove that point he runs into DX's locker room to launch an early attack. Rock has to face the music now though as he faces DX in a handicap You're Fired match, while Nitro ends with the Lethal Lottery final.
That's gonna be a good little piece of business.
Nash and Steiner versus David, Flair and Crowbar. So the boys run down to get a piece of the NWO and they fail miserably. After doing a bit of damage, Scott Steiner goes back on the commentary desk where he has a nice conversation with a ringside fan.
Get out of my face! Look at you! You look like shit!
The commentators notice that strangely there's no referee in the ring right now, so you can guess what's going to happen. Nash makes easy work of both these guys as Scotty remains at the commentary table. Young David learns what dangerous corner offense is all about while Crowbar gets his eyes poked out. Crowbar also takes a mean low blow that kinda makes up for all those crappy low blows we have been seeing on Nitro these past few weeks. And then Arn Anderson walks down wearing a referee shirt. Didn't see that coming. Terry Funk's also here, and so's Big Perm, the most fabulous security guard alive. Nash tells Double A to suck it, but this backfires in a big way. The security guys and Terry Funk surround Scott, and he doesn't see Anderson hitting Big Sexy with David's crowbar. This allows David to win via pinfall, and that means young David is a champion once again. He and Crowbar have the tag team gold. The boys escape from the ring, but Jarrett and Brett show up along with Daphne, and it's a swerve, bro. David attacks Arn while the NWO let Daphne go. It was all a big setup just so the NWO could attack Double A and Terry Funk. Flair and Crowbar leave, Brett and Jarrett take out the security guards, including Big Perm, and the show ends with Terry Funk taking a powerbomb while Scott, Brett and Jarrett put Double A in the trunk of their car. Kevin Nash joins the boys and the show fades out as the car drives away. On Raw, Triple H and Stephanie watch this 3-on-1 main event from their comfy chair while drinking champagne. Hunter then announces that this match is no disqualification, so it seems like a repeat from 2 weeks ago. Rock gets beaten up in the ring, he gets beaten up at the security barrier, he takes some punishment by the announce table, and the fans have picked out X-Pac as the one who deserves the most heat. The crowd chant X-Pac sucks as The Rock tries to get into the match, and The Rock does get odd moments here and there where he can fire up, but these don't last too long. McMahon and Helmsley watch on as Road Dogg looks for a dancey punch. He can't get the job done, but Billy Gunn's right there to save his partner. Rock takes care of Billy, X-Pac comes in to kill Rock's momentum, and the match goes outside again where DX remain in control. There's not much to say here really. Rock rallies again with a DDT to Badass, a Samoan drop to X-Pac, and a spinebuster to Road Dogg. The People's Champ then delivers a People's Elbow, and that should be it all over. But Billy Gunn pulls the referee out with a ridiculous amount of force, and the match continues on. Billy performs a jackhammer, Kid performs a Bronco Buster, Road Dogg wants to use a chair, but then Mick Foley shows up and he takes everyone out. Triple H runs down to get a piece of Mick, but he too takes a chair shot right to the head. And Rock saves his job by delivering a rock bottom to Billy Gunn. The Great One wins via pinfall, and thanks to Mankind, The Rock is staying in the WWF. Raw wins Reliving the War this week because the Lethal Lottery tournament sucked. It was good seeing Terry Funk back on TV for sure, but the tournament ate up most of the TV time and the matches were all bad. No explanation needed for this one, guys. Raw's worth watching simply for the big title change, and it's also great to see the fans react to Mick Foley's return and The Rock winning the main event. Looks like cutting an hour off Nitro wasn't the answer to all their problems, so we'll see what happens next week. Raw's now on 119 points, Nitro's on 77, and we've got 21 ties on the board. In the television ratings, Raw jumped up to a 6.4 while Nitro scored a 3.3. Things will level out a bit when fans get used to the new time slot for Nitro, but this week the change didn't make much of a difference. Next week on Raw, the superstars threaten to walk out of the WWF if McMahon and Helmsley don't reinstate Mick Foley. The Rock makes a few more demands, and these demands cause some issues within D-Generation X. The faction find themselves having to face each other in one-on-one matches, so we could be seeing the end of DX once again next week on Raw. On Nitro, Terry Funk brings some backup to help him in this war against the NWO. Jeff Jarrett warms up for Sold Out 2000 by competing in a triple theater. And guys, Doug Dillinger steps into the ring with Tank Abbott. It's time for Dillinger to get what's coming to him. All this and more next week on Reliving the War. If you want to watch the next episode right now, then head over to Patreon. Thanks for watching everyone, I do appreciate it. And please take care.